All right, thank you, everyone. Just a couple of notes before we start. Last meeting, we did get some feedback about the sensitivity of the microphones that are around. So if you're somehow a clicker, please refrain from that during the meetings. Additionally, there were whisperings picked up. So again, we only want Michael Clark to be the only hot mic in the place. So be careful of that. Just realize that these are very, very sensitive microphones. So on that, I'll go ahead and get started. And want to thank everyone for attending the meeting. We have 2 resolutions and 1 presentation. The presentation is up on the city's, the presentation is on the city's funding application. That's going to be the presentation. We have 2 resolutions. One is execution of the master developer agreement with Brenshaw and the city of Norfolk, as well as a resolution to authorize CEO and CFO to invest reserve funds. We also have 2 closed session items, legal matters and personnel matters. Additionally, our new commissioners, as well as some of the more senior ones, I'll say that way, have expressed an interest in touring of the community. Staff is working on an itinerary for such a tour, hopefully during the week after Thanksgiving, and we'll work with the commissioners to finalize the itinerary as well as their availability. So we want to make sure it works for everyone. I now invite your comments, if any, on the minutes from the Thursday, September 15, 2022 regular board meeting. Any comments? Hearing none, I'll ask for a motion to approve.
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Thank you. Ms. Carnes?
Ms. Chazinski?
Aye.
Ms. Purrier?
Aye.
Mr. Komarak?
Aye.
Mr. Gresham?
Aye.
Mr. White?
Aye.
Mr. Musacchio?
Aye. Thank you very much. We'll now take a look at the public comments. Again, public comments shall be heard during this session. Please identify a specific item on the meeting agenda. We also, if you want to make some comments outside of that, we have a you can go to the website and do that as well. Again, please identify yourself and limit your comments to 3 minutes. Additionally, oftentimes there are specific questions that require additional time or research to answer, and we will reach out to the appropriate staff members who will provide a thorough response. Again, I will go ahead and ask if there is anyone wishing to speak. Have we heard anyone?
Yes, Mr. Commissioner, we have at this time 2 in-person speakers. The first is Ms. Monet Johnson, address Fairmount Park, and her topic to address is safety. Immediately followed by Vincent Hodge of 622 Raleigh Avenue, and his topic is safety, speed, and public comment.
All righty. With the new thing, this is part of our exercise program.
It's a long mile.
Morning, I'm Maureen Johnson. I'm just here to speak to usually where I'm always speaking to, which is what we're hearing in the communities, and those are concerns around safety. I think that the concerns around safety are related to crime, but there are also deep concerns about over-policing in the community. And I was wondering if there was an opportunity to consider emergency call boxes. If they're good for ODU, they're good enough for NSU to keep our students safe, then I think it would be an opportunity for the Housing Authority, especially since we've put over $400,000 into security, to think about them for the community. They increase lighting in spaces. They allow residents to not be the person who calls the police, which is also a concern that runs deep in the communities, and it allows for an increased presence without an increased show of force. So that's one of the things that I thought was most important. I mean, if we're spending money, if we have cameras and they're not already working, then we should try something else and something that we trust for where we send, our future at the schools. That, and also, again, I would appreciate if public comment was at the end, because now I have to remember this till next month or maybe next year if there's no December meeting. So those are my concerns. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. And we'll have somebody get back to you about the call box. Mr. Hodges? Again?
Vincent Hodges, 62 Riley Avenue, apartment 4, Norfolk, Virginia, 23507. Again, public comment coming at the beginning of the meeting and not at the end of the meeting doesn't give us any opportunity to take information that's put out here before you do go into closed session and drive it down to the residents. That's our job, and that's what we're doing. Unless commissioners would love to join us on the doors and put in the 60 hours a month that I put in knocking on doors and talking to residents, that needs to be seriously considered. We've been asking for it for months. Please, somebody contact us that has the political will or the gumption to make that happen. The evasiveness is evident by the residents, and even in the PMCs as we're trying to make inroads with that. There's so much information that is put out. These agendas are dozens of pages full. We don't work here. We don't do this. This is not our thing. We're taking this and trying to disseminate it. So the job of these commissioners and of this board is to take the information that you're putting out and to improve the quality of life, to enhance safe, dignified, and public housing. Then I'd like to see that come out in a vote and really addressing it. If we can, as a city, stroke Pharrell $150,000 for Mighty Dream, we can take $100,000 and get 20 call boxes. I provided a quote to our lead organizer. Here's where they would go: 5 in Young's, 5 in Calvert, 5 Ready Spares. And actually, this quote probably needs to go up, but 5 would ideally be placed at the Ruffner Crossing. And now that I'm thinking about it this week, since I've been in Calvert over the last 10 days, Virginia Beach Boulevard, those cars driving towards Booker T and those high schoolers and middle schoolers coming this way, those cars gun their engines at them. It takes one lunchbox to fall into a street, one book, one homework assignment, and a kid to come out, and a kid will get hit, a kid will get killed. Those cars are doing in excess of 50 miles an hour, and I can see that with eyeballs. I don't need a speedometer out there. As far as the call boxes go, it helps with snitching culture, right? And we're not just talking about when shootings are going on out there. Addressing the violence that happens in this community as a whole is a part of radical social work. The word radical needs to be completely destigmatized as boogeyman and burning down, right? This is non-standard application of social work techniques that can meet and impact residents immediately. That's what it means to be radical. Okay, so when we're saying this, we're worried about snitching culture, but we're also worried about the kind of violence that comes interpersonally and domestically, right? So it's not, a couple inside their home beating up a child or stereotypically a husband punching a wife. We're talking about people, just kids beefing from the streets. We know that there's more proclivity and there's more availability for weapons now. Children are doing less of the fisticuffs and more of the trigger pulling. So $100,000 for these call boxes. Also, sorry, last thing, Bagnell wide, that intersection at Calvert Square, there needs to be a stop sign, and then on wide on the backside of Teams with a Purpose, there should be at least 2 speed bumps. Anybody that would like to come and sit with New Virginia Majority or stand with New Virginia Majority, engage with residents. We've been on this safety mitigation and deterrence program since the beginning of November. You'll have to talk to my lead and see if we're going past November. But the idea is to take ideas from residents about mitigation efforts. So if you put one at the front and back side of wide, either Virginia Beach side or on the only side, 1 speed bump, right? If you take a crossing, there's 1 crossing path, but make another crossing path that crosses into the shopping center on the back side, and also towards where I don't know if it's a teeny giant or a quick stop, but over there. Yep, this is just yesterday. And whatever cameras we have there, you can run the tapes at about 3:50 p.m. And a differently abled gentleman with a walker nearly struck by a vehicle. And coming on that corner, there is no yield sign, there is no stop sign. So folks coming in off off of Virginia Beach Boulevard, speed in and then turn onto Bagnell, and then folks leaving out of Bagnell will yield if they want and come right or come left. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Can you,
Sir.
can you just send us a thing about where you think they ought to go?
Yes, sir.
Thanks. That would be helpful. Anyone else?
At this time, we have no comments online, and I will check the hallway.
Please, thank you. It was kind of interesting, your comment, as I was coming today on Tidewater Drive, and crossing over the street, at one of the person in front of me, they could see the lady with the sign start to walk over. You're right, the person just sped up so they wouldn't have to.
It's inherently dangerous for you.
Yeah, it was like, you know.
Mr. Speaker, we have no additional questions or in-person speakers at this time.
All right, and I will call the public comment period to a close, and now ask for the executive director's comment.
Good morning, Commissioners. Good morning, guests.
Good morning.
Over the past 6 months, we, as an organization, we've lost about 100 years of institutional knowledge, and for various reasons. So, we've taken that opportunity. I know when you hear something like that, you think that, there's maybe a sense of, folks being demoralized and things like that. But I would say that staff has taken that opportunity to really sort of do a review of our operations. It's given us the chance to sort of look at our staffing, look at some of our procedures, because some of these positions are really high-profile positions, like housing operations, C&I, our project management out at our construction sites. So what this has done is, given us an opportunity to look at staffing, look at our procedures, look at our processes, and that concerns our procurement, our work orders, our occupancy, any of our departments where we interface with the residents or customers, and also our reporting. So the review is sort of with the goal in mind that we do what we can to be as responsive as possible to the needs of our customers, clients, residents, and also for each other. So we're continuing with that, but we think we're making some inroads. It is time consuming to do that, but I think we've identified a number of areas where we can be more responsive to residents, as well as, like I said, to each other. So you'll see, for example, one of the things that we're working on, for example, like even the board report, we're planning on in January, we're sort of revamping the board report so you'll get more useful information. Not that it is now, but sometimes it's hard to find. And so we also want you to get a sense of how well our properties are doing. I mean, in terms of safety, in terms of work orders, in terms of whatever issues that we may have that are reportable to you, we want to make sure that you are aware of what's going on in our community. So this has given us the opportunity, even though we've had the number of separations that we have had. And, over time, people, especially within organizations, they tend to want to make things easier for themselves to do. But I think it's good to periodically take a look, especially when you're in a large organization, to make sure that what you're doing to make things easier for you is not being a detriment to the people you're supposed to serve. So I think we're taking that opportunity to do that. And also I want to appreciate staff, because we put staff in some challenging positions. We've asked them to take on more responsibilities because of some of the downsizing that we have experienced. We're not looking to add more staff, but we're looking to maybe modify some of the existing staff and give them more responsibility. But we really appreciate, I really appreciate staff stepping up, taking on more responsibility, and to a person, everyone said that they're happy to be a team player, whatever it takes to get to where we need to be that responsive organization. So I do appreciate staff's effort during this time. And like I said, I just see it as challenging, but it's also provides some great opportunities for us to grow as an organization. Another thing is that topic that's coming about the committees that we previously had. We had a number of committees that the board served on, and since the onboarding of new commissioners, we really haven't taken up the committees. We really haven't identified, but our executive team is actually looking as to see how we can set up the committees based upon the goals that are coming out of our strategic plan. And we'll still have committees around housing operations, safety, our housing choice voucher program, the choice neighborhood program, and also some things related to what we do as an organization in terms of working with our staff. I think that's an important part. So we are looking at that, and hopefully in December, we'll be able to identify the actual committees and then work with the chairman to identify commissioners as well as staff to be able to staff those committees, and looking for them to be able to start in the first part of the next year. Don talked about the tour that we hope to, like he said, to be able to get your schedules for next week and have it the week after Thanksgiving. And then finally, last year what we did, because we were still sort of like in the, it was sort of the tail end of the pandemic, but traditionally the Housing Authority would have the annual meetings, and so we really couldn't have those during the pandemic. So one of the things that was thought of last year, we actually had, it was like a holiday or employee appreciation tour, which meant that the commissioners and executive team would split up and go to all of the properties, and talk with the staff, exchange gifts, a gift with the staff, and that includes this building as well as all the properties. We plan on doing that this year as well. And we're going to be working to set up the schedule. I think it took us over, I think it was like 2 days. I think we were able to get that done. And the feedback from that staff really did appreciate that, to be able to individually meet with the commissioners. Commissioners were able to show their appreciation, as well as, with the executive team too. But it was very well received, and we plan on doing that again next year. So be looking out for the schedule. Definitely we try to get it out early enough so you can put it on your schedules to be able to participate. And that's all I have. If you have any questions while I'm here. Yes.
Just
Yes.
trivia, reminder, will we be meeting as board in December?
Yes, it'll be a short meeting. Yeah, we'll still have it. Yeah, we'll have it.
Have it December. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll have it December. We just haven't decided, but I know traditionally, I think they had it like the early part. I know we usually, like the second Thursday, but sometimes they have it like maybe the first. I think it's the 8th. We may have it on the 8th or maybe the 15th.
Yeah.
But we'll make a
Get that
decision
out.
pretty soon.
Yeah, it's, right now it's scheduled for the 15th.
Right.
Yeah, and depending on how we can work out the tour, we may schedule it earlier so we can incorporate the tour. But we'll make a determination on that pretty soon.
Well, again, part of the thing is, in the past, we used to have the December meeting on a Friday over at the Sheraton. It was a lunch, and all employees were asked to come on over, other than those who couldn't because of their job. And then people would be very happy when John would finish his brief, no matter how long it took, presentation, because we gave the rest of the day off. So we're continuing that. So instead of having the lunch, we take pretty much what the cost of the lunch is, and we give that in cash to the employees. That's sort of the gift that each of us hands out to a certain number of employees. So, again, I think the feedback was great, that
It was,
they could meet with us individually, and we could see them, put a face with a name.
Right.
In a lot of places, so, I think we'll work all that out, all the logistics for that.
I had a comment.
Sure.
I didn't see it up here, but I probably was gonna talk about it. I want to thank you and, Ms. Rose, Karen Rose. In our neighborhood, there are some devices that making our neighborhood look safer.
Okay.
And that's what we talk about, the good things that
Right.
ACE is doing in the community. So, Ms. Rose, thank you so much for getting that. The residents are very excited about it. I got a phone call. I thought it was Christmas. I got a phone call. They're excited about what's going on in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
So, the team that did that,
Yeah.
we were very happy and granted.
Okay.
Another neighborhood too as well. I don't know how many neighborhoods you've got already, Ms. Rose, but Commissioner, your guys did is really nice. It gets this traffic, stopping the traffic and getting the cars in case the crime come out. And it's in the neighborhood. The residents have seen it and they're really excited about it. Yeah. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, because we do try, we listen, even with the comments that we hear, but, we try to do what we can to be responsible, especially when it comes to crime.
Kudos to you.
And I know Karen and her team does a great job
Kudos.
of trying to address that, doing what we can with the funds that we have available. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Raytron. Any other comments from commissioners?
Mr. Chair, I have a comment. Regrettably, I say that because, what I'm gonna say, I know it will probably cause a wave with our team this morning, but I really believe that we are at a very critical point in the life of the authority. And our chair, Don, I certainly have enjoyed working with you as the chair and me as the vice chair, but I think we've reached a point that we really need a different vision for the organization. I've been very supportive of your leadership and tried my very best to support the vision that you have set for this organization. But I just think that we have allowed ourselves to become largely ineffective in what we do. And, we have political candidates using the authority and Hampton Ventures as political football, largely because they don't understand it. I mean, and we all know that. We all know that so much of the opposition, news articles we face have come from people who don't understand either the organization or what we do. And they have reiterated that in other fashions over and over and over again. The comments that our executive director just made about losing staff, I think, has a lot to do with staff morale, and staff is not sure where the board stands as it relates to supporting them and the work that they do. They've been doing outstanding work. We have left that story largely untold in so many instances. For me, it continues over and over and over again. Mr. Chair, I think you're a great guy. You have served our community well. I think you have a good career, and the work that you've done, federal government level, and then coming home and retiring, and then at the local level. I just feel that we need some different leadership at this point. And so, we need to understand our headwind. We need to understand our tailwind, what's pushing us forward, what's the opposition to us, and how do we get out ahead of those kinds of things. We're the largest housing authority, I believe, in the state. We certainly used to be. And public housing and quality affordable housing has become the issue that everybody is concerned about. I was reading a piece yesterday about Chesapeake having the highest rent structure in the country. And we are right behind. And we haven't provided the kind of leadership that I think we could have by setting rent standards, providing quality housing at affordable rates for people that need it. So our constituents don't know if they can depend on us. Our staff have morale issues, and we are losing tremendous amount of institutional knowledge every day. And so I don't blame you for that. I certainly don't. But I do believe that that has a lot to do with the vision that's set for the organization. And so I am just kind of, I think, giving notice that at our next organizational meeting, I intend to submit my hat for consideration for the chair. And it has little or nothing to do with our relationship or the quality of person you are. It has everything to do with the vision, I think, that the organization needs at this point. So I wish there was another avenue for saying what I'm saying now, as opposed to just kind of coming out and kind of blindsiding you with this knowledge. That's not my desire, but I know how restricted you are by the rules that govern what we do as a board, as a body. You know, three of us can't get together. So in your consultations with people, it's got to be one, and or you got to get the team together and then open it to public scrutiny, which in my mind is fine. I mean, you know, we're a public body. Excuse me, and I think we should be willing, ready, and able to withstand public scrutiny. Having said all of that, I just wanted to kind of let you know that at our next organization meeting, reorganization, I'm sorry, I intend to submit my consideration for the chair.
Other comments? Yes.
Just so I won't blindside folks, it's, and depending on what we do for the December meeting, my intention, and I've expressed this over the last year, is to roll off of the board January 1st. My involvement with NRHA began sometime around 1962 when I was a little kid.
Wow.
And so I think my day and time has come. The needs of the board, and Alfonso expressed his vision of things, but I can see that we as a organization have different needs than we did when I started, and I want to thank every one of you all. We had a tremendous board, and I'm will forever be appreciative and feel like we had the best board one could ever imagine. When Joe was here and the rest of us, I think we had every cylinder clicking, and we're slowly transitioning to another group which will get its cylinders going in a direction. So thank you for allowing me to be a part of it all.
Thank you, Dick. Really appreciate it. And we'll have a little ceremony. If you continue on with this, then we will.
Do I have to dress up as Santa Claus or anything?
Maybe not.
Thank you.
Yes. Other comments?
Just, yes.
Go ahead.
To Alfonso's remarks that, city council doesn't always understand what we do. I continue to be somewhat baffled that we don't have kind of a liaison to city council. I mean, I know that comes with its own set of challenges, but we're the only city that I'm aware of in this area that doesn't have one, sometimes two liaisons. And I know we've reached out to council to have, joint, like not a session, but a joint meeting so that we could, and we haven't had a lot of success with that. But now that elections are done, and new people get sworn in, perhaps it's an opportunity to revisit that. I mean, I just think it'd be really helpful. So, I know that many of you all have really good, strong individual relationships with council folks, but for them to hear, hear our business and hear the public's business, I think it's so valuable. I think it's a missed opportunity for them, and we need to commence some of that.
Okay, Ron, you got a challenge, dude.
All right. I'd like to say something. That's a good idea, Steve. That's a good idea. So we all, it's a good idea. I think that's a wonderful, so everybody will know what's going on in the agency, in the community. And I really think Ms. Fonzo's a good idea that we do try to do something fresh. I personally go down to city council and I fight for the right. And sometimes they didn't know that we had this and that. So to give some information to them what we do and how the organization is ran the right way, then they know what we're up against. Maybe, it won't be so hard on any of the board members or any directors or even Mr. Jackson when they come down and people know the right and the truth of how we run business here in NRHA. They won't be sitting up in council saying stuff is not true. That kind of aggravates me as a person that knows what's the truth. So, and again, council get a way of going with the citizens of the city, not knowing the actual facts. So, and I think we need to start with the new administration of this wonderful agency that I'm a part of now, that we make sure we take care of the staff of this agency and the residents comes first in the agency. And I think we'll be the number one, not in the city, the state, in the country, but it has to start in the house and the children and the neighbors and the neighborhood and then the council. Because as we get that done, I've talked to some residents and employees. I've been down to see them, to tell them, hey, you know you are so and asking questions, and even the city with my baseball cap on, just talking to people and saying, is this a violation? They don't understand the work with the administration. So if we can get up a new pot of soup and then we display it in the family of dinner, I think in the community we'll all have good supper. So I would love to see that. And any way I can help out just to have that as a board member, to find, my grandma would call it fresh ideas or fresh new blood that we can start and let the city know that we are going to take this and we're not going to run it, we're going to keep it. And this will be a new project for this NRHA of Norfolk. I do think that.
Okay.
I think it's incumbent upon each one of us to reach out to the folks at City Hall. The problem, I don't believe, is on this side of the street. There has been, ever since I've been on the board, that's been a problem.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Other comments? All right. Thank you so much. We'll now go on to look at page 19. Ask Mike Clark to come up and talk to us about the city funding application.
Morning.
Morning.
Before we get into the application, let me take a few minutes to set the stage. And in keeping with our chairman's comment about hot mic, here goes. If that goes away in 2023, I'm okay. Just letting you know. This is the city funding application that normally gets presented in September or October. Those of you who've been on the board know this is a presentation that would normally have a lot of pretty slides showing a lot of different initiatives that we've done or we're going to do. I gotta tell you, this presentation is a lot more focused, a lot more streamlined, and frankly, it's due to the acknowledgement of the city's development department. They're carrying on a lot of initiatives that we used to do. So what we're focusing on in this application is purely what we see ourselves doing. And again, this is more or less traditionally what the development division, NRHA development division would do. A couple other points. This, as we get into it, this application will only be referencing the funding that we get through the city. It does not talk about capital fund or any of the funds that we get from Virginia Housing. So just want to make you aware of that. Also, this does not require, a couple other things, this does not require an action from you today. This is merely the presentation. Couple other steps. One, it will be posted online so the public can comment via email. I think we'll have it up next week. In the December meeting, we are still going to have to hold a public hearing on this. So again, you'll hear parts of this before. When you actually vote, frankly, is in June, when you adopt our FY23 budget. So, the FY24 budget. So that's when this, along with everything else, gets actually voted on. So this is more of an update, letting you know what we're doing. So, Makisha, you can take it to the next slide. So these are the funding sources that will be reflected in the application. And in the interest of following what you all have been talking about as far as changing faces maybe, I'm not going to present it this time. I've done it for 7 or 8 years. I'm going to let our neighborhood programs manager take you through the application. Once she's done, I'll kind of wrap up again as to next steps. But I'm going to step aside for a change. So with that.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Would you come to the next slide, please? Here you have the application funding summary. Can you hear me okay with that? The funding summary that we're going in total is for $7.5 million. The next couple of slides following that will go into a justification for each fund source so we can understand what we're doing and what's in the numbers.
For the sake of those who may not know, I have a hearing disability, and I apologize because I really should wear my hearing aids. I don't. Mandatory keeps me from wearing them, but it helps me if when you speak, you kind of look toward us, and it helps me kind of read your lips a little bit.
Yes, sir, no problem.
All right, thank you.
First slide will be the capital improvement or CIP funds. Next slide, please. This is the $3.5 million in the CIP plan. This includes $3 million for transforming public housing communities. That application is a request that reflects an extensive multi-year initiative by NRHA and the city as a whole. The project redevelops the St. Paul's area. Funding for this project supports that and is in conjunction with the CNI funds received. NRHA received 1 round of funding for this multi-year initiative in 2022, and those funds were used to support tap water and demolition in that area. Next is acquisition and demolition in the blighted Willoughby neighborhood. At the request of the Willoughby Conservation Committee, they identified properties to be acquired, or they'd like to be acquired, from a time frame of 2022, I believe, through 2028. Willoughby receives about $200,000 per year
for this funding activity. Typically, the cost to acquire and demolish properties in Willoughby run about $400,000. So that puts us in a position where we have to wait and combine prior year funds and current year funds to actually acquire a property. So we are going for another round of funding at $250,000. Next up is the Homeward Norfolk program. This program is a home ownership program initiative funded by the city, administered through our HomeNet Home Ownership Center. This program provides $20,000 or up to $20,000 in down payment and closing cost assistance to those families in the 80 to 120 area median income. They don't quite qualify for the low lot, so they're in the higher income bracket. The program is specific to 3 neighborhoods: Ingleside, Monticello Village, and Oakdale Farms. NRHA has received funding in this program 2 years prior, and we have requested as of last year to expand the other neighborhoods, open up other housing opportunities for these first-time homebuyers. We did not get approval for that last year, but we are requesting it again for this year. And the funds for program delivery are to support the staff working in that program. Next slide, please. I would like to say in that program for Homeward Norfolk, we've had 5 closings since the inception of that program. There is 1 under contract, hopefully closing next week, and 2 more that have been approved and are looking for housing. We have some accomplishments there. General fund, $2.5 million in general fund. These are the items underneath that grant. The economic development grants are passed through to NRHA. We have no control over the funding amount of which items pass through. So this is just a level request from the previous year. Program management is our admin fund. These funds support not just the development division, but also other areas of the authority. This position is our maintenance money. This is for properties in our inventory. This is your grass cutting and your cleanup when you have illegal dumping on our site. That's pretty standard each year. The Monroe Building rent. NRHA has an agreement, an MOU with the city for the historic Monroe Building. That building is used by the Governor's School of Arts and the Virginia Stage Company to provide training for Hampton Roads schools. There's a total of about 370 9th and 12th graders that benefit from that program. And this is an annual agreement that we continue until that MOU is over. And last but not least, residential options, another MOU with the city. The funding exists to offset shortfalls in NRHA from FY18 to FY 2023. The MOU dates back to 2017. Reimbursements have been discussed and requested multiple times, but none have been received at this point. We do want to make a point that the request here of $585 includes about $510,000 from those previous years and another $70,000 for this year in expected shortfalls for operations. Any questions so far? All right, next slide. Our Home Investment Partnership Fund, $1.3 million in the home buyer program. We have a proposed 20 first-time home buyers to receive up to $60,000 in funds to help purchase their first home. The CHODO set aside, we have 1 current CHODO, approved CHODO, the Beacon Light CHODO, and we do have 2 other organizations that have expressed interest in helping to build affordable homes for Norfolk and are in the application process. The program management supports the program for both of those. I would like to say that this year we have 5 closings so far since September. We have 10 additional that have been approved and are out looking in the housing market, and we have 44 in the eligibility review process. So very big interest in the program. Next slide, please. And here is our CDBG grant, our Community Development Grant Grant. This supports our HomeNet program. Our HomeNet program provides counseling to over 300 families a year. Currently, as of July, they have accomplished 186 new applicants. They're receiving over 27 phone calls and going and out coming. So big demand for the program, and this small amount of money supports them in getting the program.
One question, please.
Yes, sir.
Is this the only, maybe I should wait until you get through.
Oh, you're fine? Yes, sir.
No, I wanted to know, well, why don't I wait till you get through, because you may answer my question.
But you're actually right on time. This is the end of my portion of the program. So you're right on time for questions before we bring Mr. Clark back up.
I have a question.
Yes.
I talked to Mr. Clark about this, the residents are getting a house this program.
What was that, Raytron?
It's the residents, people in the Tidewater area that benefit from this program. This is something that we do not praise, and these people praise the NRHA for this home. I had one lady call me crying, said the God sent today, she's going to get her first home. Born and raised, her mother had 13 children. Her mother's 95. She get to see her baby daughter to get her first home because of the program. And the agency here walks them hand in hand like it's their purchasing the houses for them. So I want to commend you, Mr. Clark, and everybody on that floor that you work on, that they do a wonderful job. And they're calling me like, I don't know what's going on. I'm getting my house. This is my dream come true. And people are really excited about this program. We have so much negative stuff, but this program works, Mr. Jackson. Thank you all. The staff that were giving the people in their house for the first time. And the young lady said she wanted to invite me to be the Christian in her house. I said, I don't mind, I'm a pastor, but I will go there and eat your food and knock the bell, knock the glass over, or whatever you do it. But you all, this is something I'm glad to be a part of on the board. Thank you all.
We are trying to highlight, I know we have our public relations person working with them to try to come up with, to showcase some of those home buyers.
Amazing.
And where they came from, public housing, whatever, but they're all low income. But they've all been very appreciative, but like you said, we really haven't done a good job to sort of highlight that. But we are doing it.
We'll be sure to let the staff know they do start from the very beginning. The home buyer education, the budgeting, the credit counseling, it's a full walkthrough program. And it's putting out about 20 new homeowners a year.
I think the comprehensiveness of it is what impresses me. I agree with you 110%. And, but just the things that are covered, and as I said, the comprehensiveness of the staff, really has a whole new meaning, gives a whole new meaning to being patient, working with people, helping them kind of reiterate things that they had done poorly before. It really is outstanding. I agree. It's kind of right up there with a couple of other programs in our law and like that. So I agree, Ray.
Thank you. Mr. Clark's going to come back and talk about the city funding trends and highlight some of the initiative updates.
Before we leave, Ron, would it be possible at some point to actually have a kind of a coordinated presentation on these? I mean, we've got, the home buyer assistance, we have the Homeward program, and then we've got HomeNet. I'd be interested to see how they work together and what does what, and it's a bit fragmented for me. So at some point,
Yes, and let me
you're gonna thank me for giving you more work?
Yes. No, we can make that happen. And that's a good thing. That's a good thing.
Next slide, please.
And again, thank you all for the words, the kind words. I'll pass it on to both the Home and HomeNet staff. Okay, I don't really need that slide. Hold on one second. The takeaway on this slide, and those of you who've been on the board, you've seen me use this about as long as I've been presenting, but no jokes, Don. So I feel like a game show host. Nah. But seriously, there's a key takeaway here. CIP funds. At one point, we were getting $3.4 million, all right? We're down to $200,000 now. That's what fueled the infill housing the acquisitions and we did put in for Willoughby. We just acquired we will be acquiring a Willoughby property. But again, it takes us 2 years of funding to do that. But this is major, going from 3.4 down to 200,000 and basically carrying out one acquisition. Now granted, we're still doing the homework, Norfolk, and quite frankly, since we talked about home buyers for a second, that's still the one thing the city is looking to us for. And I don't know if any of you saw it, but they put out, the city recently, I think it just hit out yesterday, an RFP for the JT website over in Huntersville. Well, they're going to do it, but they're still looking to us to help with the homeowners. So that's still a big deal of what we do. So your kind words about home ownership get passed on, and we still got work to do there. So, anyway, next slide.
Mike,
Yes.
before you leave this slide.
Yes.
Now, you're trending up from 19, 20, 21. You go all the way up to $3.5 million now. And then 22 and 23 is kind of dropped in the cellar.
Part of that, and I should have brought this out first, and it's actually mentioned.
Yeah.
Part of that is the COVID relief program that we ran for, I think it was 2020 and 2020. Actually, we're still doing it now. But a good portion of that uptick was due to the COVID program. All right, so, but in those years, we also, and you may recall, in Ward's Corner, we were acquiring the Sunrise Apartments. We were doing that. So there were still acquisitions that the city was using us for. But since they've staffed up their development department, they're pretty much doing it now. So, but that's, you're right, Mr. That's real. You're right, you're spot on that, sir. Again, the application that we're putting out now is what we see us doing as far as these funds. This has nothing to do with the capital funds or any other funds that come into the agency. This is just for this. All right, next slide. This is just a quick overview of some of our current initiatives, but since Commissioner Perry brought this up, the one thing we did mention, the scattered site, we had 15, I think we are down to 11 that have been completed with another 4 to do. This program specifically took public housing residents and got them into home ownership. So again, to your point, let me put that together for you either in January or February at the latest, but yes, let's do that.
Yeah, not in a hurry, but it's just
No,
as we continue to educate ourselves about.
Yes, you're definitely right. Especially as we start pivoting from some of the bigger projects that we used to do, be it the homes at Bay Oaks or some other projects. I mean, when you think about it, at the end of the day, that's what we're trying to do is create home ownership opportunities. And if we're doing it a different way now, so be it. Next slide. I know I'm skipping over this. I didn't want to take up so much time. You have it in your package. Just want to touch on a couple other things. So as I mentioned earlier, we're on a different timeline with this presentation and application. Frankly, the city didn't send us a notification about this until, Ron, early November? Right. So this is as soon as we could get this to the board. Again, we're going to have online comment that is going to be available to receive online comments, and we will have a public hearing in the December meeting, whether state on the 15th. We will do that, and we will also be submitting this to the city in December as well. And with that, with any other questions or?
Questions? Comments?
Again, thank you all very much.
Thank you, Mike. All right.
and this is a question for the IT folks, but, you know, I brought this up, you know, some time back. Is there a way that when we get this meeting, that we could have sub-files? And the last thing that upgraded this took up thousands of pages, so that we could sort of run through these things. And I think the problem that I've perceived is that these meetings are so packed with things that a lot of these beautiful things really don't have time to be celebrated.
Right.
So just a suggestion, if there's a way of sub-filing some of the bigger things, so that, you know, we won't have to, you know, go through thousands of pages.
That's a good idea. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Give us a report back on that. Okay. All right. All right, next up is.
Suzanne told you to say that, didn't she?
You know, no. Because you know how I slog through these. I mean, I do. I'm like, I got the second one. I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to read this agreement twice.
Okay, we're now going to be looking at the master development agreement. Ms. Barnes?
Yes. Good morning.
Good morning.
I won't be taking notes. We're in development item 2. This is with regard to the Samples Redevelopment Initiative, the CNI program. You don't typically see me presenting, and I'm not Steve Morales, but I'll do my best. You have today for your approval, for your consideration, the final product, the Master Development Agreement that we have been negotiating with the City of Norfolk and our housing lead, Bryn Shore. It's a very complex document. It took a couple of years to negotiate the details. Some of this has to do with the mechanics of the CNI program. Nothing to be alarmed about. These things just take time. Be mindful also of the fact that as we were negotiating this, we were also handling submissions to HUD, refining the housing plan, the infrastructure plan, the separation of the blocks within the CNI project to accommodate the various housing mix units that you've heard about before, including in previous presentations given here by Bryn Shore. So today is really the final product. It took us a while to get here, but we are finally where we need to be. We believe this includes really the result of our negotiations with Bryn Shore and the City of Norfolk. There could be adjustments in the future. As you know, the CNI grant is sort of a living document where we are in frequent contact with HUD and making adjustments as need be. But as of right now, this is the plan. City Council considered the exact same agreement because they are a party to it, and they voted to approve it at their October 25th City Council meeting. So this is the exact same document that you may have seen as part of the City Council agenda and their meetings, which you can watch on YouTube or whatever the platform is for City Council meetings. So this is the same thing, basically. That was presented on October 25th. And again, this is a compilation of various portions of the housing piece that you've heard already over the past roughly 2 years. Yes, sir.
I know I'm quite talkative this morning, but yeah, it's my first opportunity in the last 2 or 3 months. But why was it necessary, Delphine, for us to add Bryn Shore's partners in here? And I'll tell you why I asked that question, because there may be 1 or 2 partners in here that I may disapprove of personally, but Bryn Shore has every right to engage. And with me approving this, it looks as though I'm approving them too. And I guess I am. But why was that necessary? Just curious now. I know there's nothing that we can do about it.
Actually, in this document, you're not approving Bryn Shore. You already did that years ago when you applied for the CNI grant. Brinshaw was part of the CNI application and was designated as the housing lead
Yeah.
after they had been selected pursuant to an RFP. So this document doesn't really approve Brinshaw as your partner. They've already been your partner.
Yeah. No, that's not what I'm asking. Let me redirect this. I'm not asking about Brinshaw. I understand that. I'm saying, in this, we see, if you look at, the third paragraph, it lists the partners that Brinshaw has solicited. And I'm saying, when we approve or offer the resolution, I guess maybe approving is the wrong word. It just looks as though I am consenting somehow. I just don't want to feel like I had to consent to who Brinshaw has brought on board as their partners. That's their business. I don't want to, you know what I mean? I don't want to, I guess I just hate to kind of feel like I am somehow providing some kind of consent to who their partners are. I mean, and maybe it is, maybe I'm just, making a point that is pointless, but it just seems as though, I don't know why I had to know who their partners were, and it seems like it's pulling me to a point to make a decision about something that I really care not to make a decision about it. And again, maybe it's a point that's pointless. I don't want to hold a meeting up with that. I just thought it was odd that they would put their partners in here, two of their partners in here, quite controversial in the community. And so when I offer this resolution, approve this resolution, I feel as though I'm somehow consenting to who they brought on as partners. And I know that's not the case. I understand that. I know it's, again, a point that's pointless. But anyway, I'm on record. Just keep it moving. I'm good.
Okay. Great.
Sorry to hold you up.
No, you're not holding me up. It's a valid point. They have to come to us for consent when they do certain things, and HUD has to consent as well.
Sure.
And as you know, some of these partners are only for limited phases and will not be part of the rest of the redevelopment initiative.
Absolutely.
Any other questions I can?
The only thing is on the table of contents, I don't believe there is a page 345. Under 7.7, it's page 345.
You're just making
Duly
it up.
noted.
No, it says 345.
The record will reflect.
Thank you.
Chairman Musacchio read the document in its entirety.
I got a question.
Yes, sir.
Is there any way, I'm speaking for me, I don't know if Amy, can we get some better, more knowledge of what this is, because we're just coming on. I really want, before I vote on something, or we have to vote, to figure out about this whole page of this table of contents and stuff. So can we get somebody to actually help us to brief us on this kind of stuff?
On the review of the MDA?
Yeah.
Do you mean right now, or
No.
scheduling a separate meeting?
Schedule.
Yes, we're happy to schedule a separate meeting to go through the MDA. It's really meant to gather all of the communications and negotiations that we have had with Brinshaw and the city over the past 2 years. Mm-hmm. Quite frankly, some of the provisions in the MDA are more of a confirmation nature at this point, because we've been moving forward.
Right.
And so some of the things happened little by little. Applications were submitted to Virginia Housing for tax credit funding, for instance. So we're kind of now signing a document that embodies everything, including some of the activities that have been in process for quite some time, and that we approved piecemeal at those times because we did not have the MDA finalized. because it takes a while to finalize that kind of document. And certainly, I'm happy to sit down with you and any of the commissioners, really, whether new commissioners or existing commissioners who would like a refresher. It has been a very large initiative and so many components, so many parts of it, including some activities undertaken by the city, some by NRHA, some by Brinshaw. Some of it, there's crossover as well, so I understand that it's kind of a huge document to absorb at this time.
Right, I agree with Raytron. I mean, this is a 300-page, very complex legal document, and I don't feel that, at least as a newcomer, that I've had enough time to really look at this and read this. If I'm going to approve it, I want to know what I'm approving.
Right, understood.
And she's a lawyer. All righty,
Anything else?
Thank you.
So, should we move on with the approval or not?
Quite frankly, if we need to, we can postpone it, knowing that could cause some delays. I'm happy to reschedule this for a December approval, if that would be
Would that be more helpful?
better for the board.
Certainly.
Okay, then we'll schedule a separate session to go over the agreement, and then we'll put it back on the agenda for December, if that's agreeable.
That works for you, folks?
I would have been fine going forward with this agreement, but if my colleagues prefer that.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure. Okay, let's see where we are next. Scott, come on up, and if you scroll down to page 274.
Yes, if you will skip forward about 12,000 pages in your
12,000 electrons per
Exactly.
byte.
I'm excited to come to you today with a good thing. So we are allowed under HUD rules. HUD wrote a notice back in 1996 that they wrote so well that they never changed it, which allowed housing authorities to invest excess funding, and it outlines how we can do that, and it kind of waylays a lot of industry thought that all you can do is just have a savings account and certificates of deposit under certain circumstances. But it allows you as an agency to invest your funds, I'm going to say, a bit more aggressively. I'm not up here telling you to go into a mutual fund on the NASDAQ. That is specifically against the rules. But we are allowed to take advantage of treasury bills and municipal bonding vehicles and things like that. So what we have done, we put out an RFP about 4 or 5 months ago. Actually, after the retreat, we put this out, and we have had reviewers come in and selected Town Investment Group with Town Bank to be the broker. And this is going back to what Ron has been saying for quite some time about using the expertise that's outside the building, rather than trying to count on staff expertise. So we're going to have Town Investment Group invest these funds for us. I would like to say, again, for the record, for the newer commissioners, reserve funding that is non-discretionary, which is what we earn on those Oakmont and Merrimack properties. We can do it as we choose. Investment earnings on the reserves that we hold for the public housing program can only be used for the public housing program. So we have to account for these reserves in the pots, if you will, as to how the money is presented. The rules also are more strict for the straight up federal funds. So public housing reserves, I'm under far more strict regulations as to how I can invest that money than I would be on the money for Oakmont and Merrimack. Frankly, the Oakmont and Merrimack money, I can go to the NASDAQ, but as your CFO, I would never do that. The downside far exceeds the upside to doing anything like that. So we're going to keep a consistent approach with our investments. However, we will have separate accounts. What I wanted to go into just for a moment is we're going to have 3 accounts set up. One account will be a deposit account with the bank, which will be a money market account, which will be a very aggressive money market account with them. And that will also potentially allow us some interest rate savings on mortgages that we have that are variable, because we'll be showing a bigger deposit presence with the bank.
And then with the investment group, we will have two accounts. We'll have a federal investment account, which will again keep our more restricted funds separate from our less restricted funds. And then when we compile this all and earn the interest earnings will be reported in the proper vehicles. And hopefully, as we get into the right sizing and the sustainability, this board will have these funds available years down the road to try to do more of these initiatives that you so accurately pointed out that Michael's group does. That will have the availability with some extra income. We talked a lot about having to reduce expenses, and we've done a great job of that. You have 3-month financial reports in your packet, which I won't go through, but I will be happy to go through them with anyone who wants to. They're showing that we're doing well, but it obviously helps us to have more revenue. And as we discussed last month, we really do not have the ability to do much with our revenues. The rents are calculated, the half payments are calculated, everything is calculated for us on the inside, but this is somewhere where we can generate some revenue for the agency going forward. So I request your approval on this resolution to allow, we're not going to name names, to allow the CEO and the CFO to act on the board's behest to invest the agency's excess cash, and I'll take any questions.
Questions?
Yes.
So why is this the best, way to go forward with our excess?
This way versus?
What other options would we have? Because I know you said that we're very restricted, but again, we're, for the new board members who haven't been here, this is only my second meeting, so tell me about these reserve funds and what our limitations are.
Well, the limitations are set by HUD in that notice as to you can't do equities, basically, with federal money. You cannot do equities. So I can't go out and buy stock in a company. There's a liquidity measure that I've got to be able to get the money back within 3 days, I believe. So when we did the RFP, we sent that notice out with it. That was the background for the institutions that came back and said, all right, how would you take this document and how would you come back to us? And obviously, what is your fee structure coming back with it? And when we evaluated, we just evaluated on the technical knowledge of the HUD notice that was presented within the RFP. I'm not answering your question. I think you want to know, what am I going to do with the money? And the point of this was to get someone professionally outside to handle that part of it. And then to have them demonstrate their expertise in that area so that we could make the best choice to put it with the best institution.
Because, I'm thinking if we have reserve funds, are there more critical things that maybe we could use that money for, that maybe something that's critical or an urgent need that we could use those funds? That's a budgetary concern when we come forward with the budget. What we're trying to do sustainability-wise is not use reserve funds right now to operate on. I see your point. Should there be a big capital need and we decide to use reserves, we will have the availability to get that money back. But there are minimum reserve levels that have been set up by this board historically that, as we talked in the retreat, we were getting near those. So it's time to focus on building that back up right now. And that was the direction we were getting at that time, was to try and build those reserves, to not spend them administratively anymore. Obviously, if something comes up that we had a development need that the board chose, we could use the money in that way. And in terms of, you said it was town, was it competitive? Did they have to? Okay. And are they charging us an arm and a leg? I mean, banks are notorious for, institutions like that, and brokerages, they're notorious for huge fees and all kinds of extra additional costs. I mean, have we looked at that? Yes,
the proposals were competitive as to fees. We made sure that we got schedules so that we compared apples to apples with all of the offers to see where, and that was great. That was part of the evaluation process, was to see. So we'll know what their fees are, and I'll be able to keep an eye on that.
Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion, we accept the proposal.
A second?
I'll second.
Ms. Carnes?
Mr. Albert?
Hi, I have a
comment I wanted to make, but I didn't want to hold the motion. So I vote aye.
Ms. Jazinski?
Aye.
Ms. Purrier?
Aye.
Mr. Komarak?
Aye.
Mr. Gresham?
Aye.
Mr. White?
Aye.
Mr. Masaccio?
Aye. I guess the other alternative was lottery tickets, I guess.
Well,
I like that.
my comment was that, there comes a point when, like finance makes these decisions that they do come before the board and say, here's what we, did, here's how they scored, here's who we are selecting. So it wasn't like arbitrary that they just picked down. We do get a chance to hear the logic, the reasoning, you know what I mean, and the process, and that's what I want to make. That's all.
And then I can, previously, we really haven't had reserves to be able to invest because we've been using a good portion of them to fund operations. But now that, like Scott said, now we're getting to the point where we're not having to use the reserves, and we may go through this year maybe with use minimal. We may not need to use any reserves. So that's all part of the right sizing, and even with some of the, the issues that we've been having with the staffing, is because we were really overspending, basically. So, but now that we're going through the right sizing and getting to where we need to be as an organization, the goal is that we have reserves, especially the non-discretionary reserves. And so when we come around to budget, and then the board can say, hey, we want to see this use of the reserve. We'll be able to do that. We haven't been able to do that in the past. So if there's a capital need, or if there are security issues, or if there's a client services, or if we wanted to, for example, when Mike was talking about some of the things that funding we used to get from the city in terms of housing and things like that we don't get anymore, maybe there's an opportunity to use our reserves to be able to do some of those programs. But we just have to build it up. But it will come that time when the board can weigh in on that when we come around to budget time. We have ample enough reserves to be able to do that.
And is the bank to help us to decide that kind of stuff? That's why we got the bank to do that.
Well, the bank is actually, it's just to get the best, the lowest fees and the highest interest. That's what we're trying to do. And it's got to be, it's got to, like Scott said, it's got to be, first of all, it's got to be FDIC insured. Got to make sure that the money's protected. And then we go through the cost benefit analysis where we get the highest reserves for the lowest fees. That's basically it.
So they're the experts of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, they take care of that part of it. And then, so while the money, instead of it sitting in an account where we're not getting any interest, this way we can do that. And because some housing authorities, what they do is they sweep out the funds overnight and put it in certain accounts to gain more interest, and then it's back in the account the next day. So there's a number of different things we can do, but we just want to make sure whatever they do that the money's insured for, whatever the actual money is insured. But there's a lot of different ways that you could do that without really risking the principal amount that you have in there, and it still earns while it's sitting in the bank.
Ron, could I clarify a word you used in there? You said we were overpaying. And back, you were saying that we were overspending.
Well,
and I think we were overspending, given what was going on with the monies we were getting. We were having to adjust to scale to be sized right.
Yes.
For where we need to be. And
yes.
It took us some time to realize
Right.
the magnitude of what was going on the federal and the city funding and things like that. And I don't want it to sound like we were sitting around having parties.
No. I meant, and if you recall that the graph that Mike showed on the funding, that also had an impact on our staffing over time, because we were heavily into redevelopment, doing a lot of things that the city now is taking responsibility for. The housing authority was doing a lot of the redevelopment, East Beach, and a lot of the neighborhoods, the high-end neighborhoods around here. The housing authority had a big part in that. That funding is not available anymore, but the staffing was there in place, and so we couldn't continue using reserves where it was basically supplementing or in place of the funding that we got from the city. said, we were right at the level that the board set in terms of the reserve level. We were at that. We were a 10-year downward spiral. And if we hadn't changed, we would have, 2 or 3 years, we would have been out of reserve if we hadn't acted.
Other comments for Scott? All right, Scott, thank you so much.
Thank you all.
I think next is, following on page 274, there are the monthly reports. Any comments on those reports? You gotta find a way to stop having to do this every 30 seconds.
These days are brilliant, right?
I don't know. I have an AOL account, so that, and my 13-year-old grandsons are in school, so they can't help me now.
You know, and also, some of these legitimate educational issues and these substantive conversations, which are important, the formation of new committees will help with that, doing that business.
Right.
Because then, you'll have the opportunity to have a deeper dive at the committee level, give that report, and, so,
That's right.
Yeah, so they have the quarterly reports, community engagement as well. Do you want to talk about that, or just answer questions, or both?
I am available to answer questions.
No, I want to talk about it.
Well, I do know that there's a lot been going on in the communities, and do want to give a shout out to Julius Norman. He's been really working very hard in the communities, particularly where we've had some of our residents injured and actually passing away from some of the crimes. And so Julius has been one-on-one with the folks involved in that, as well as you. So I really do appreciate their taking. I know it's actually talking with Julius, it does take a toll on him personally when you deal with those kinds of things. So a shout out to all of the folks involved in that.
Can we just allow Kimberly, if she has any significant, things she'd like us to know?
Sure.
I mean, I don't want to put you on the spot, but there may be some things that you'd like us to know.
Thank you.
All right.
It's hard to sort that out, Kim, because it's all significant.
It's all significant. It all makes sense. Well, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I think I'm going to piggyback on a couple of comments that have already been made in today's session, just as a thing that we want to continue to carry through. Number one, Commissioner White mentioned the programs and the things that happen in and around our communities, and that we do need to make a better emphasis in highlighting the wins, because so much of the public narrative are often the losses or the deficiencies. So we are very happy that we do have a communications consultant in place with us who is working with us hand in hand, literally asking us, how do we facilitate a script? Whether it's social media, whether it's a narrative with the staff to remind them that work is not done just as a time, something to do between an 8 to 5 day, but this is actually significant work in our community. I'd also like to just highlight that we are very aware of the changes and the shifts that are in place in the city, and we as community engagement, which includes client services, are prepared to work with that shift. And I highlight this specifically because we look in terms of feedback that we do receive from, like the Virginia New Majority and other organizations that say these are the things that folks are actually experiencing in the community. And we know that there is a fine line for us to dance, for us to facilitate. I often use the cynical phrase as rent man. We are, in some folks' eyes, just seen as the folks who collect the rent, but we want to be the folks who actually impact and help folks thrive in the community. And a lot of times that is only done, most of the time that is only done through trusted partnerships. So we are working to build more trusted partnerships in the community. It doesn't matter if we go out with a flyer and say, you know, earn $100 just by coming to this class. Folks have to know that they trust us. And I think we are cycling back into a period where we do have many more community leaders, community folks in the community saying, wait a minute, let me vet this for myself before I condone this, or I give the head nod, proverbially, to the community to say, this is something we should be doing. So we are really taking a step back in many situations just to make sure that we are building our reputation and building the trust that the community really wants to see. Lastly, I will hit on something that Commissioner Albert mentioned, which was the things that we're doing, and Chairman Masaccio noted Julius Norman in particular. We are very dependent on the working relationships within our departments and within the intra-department relationships as well as inter-department relationships. So things that happen that are often said, well, that's property management. It is very important for property management, community engagement, communications, executive team, for all of us to be on the same page, for us to really sing from the same sheet of music. We have had many tragedies. We've had some things that have happened in and around our communities. We've had things that happen to folks from our communities that didn't happen in our communities, but we know that has a trickle effect into the community. And I just want to say and appreciate those staff members who go above and beyond. Mr. Norman, just to call him out just for a moment, you know, not only provided support to one of our families recently, he actually spoke at the homegoing services to talk about his personal connection with the family over multiple generations. That was huge because the family asked him to do it. He didn't volunteer. He didn't say, I must be the lead person from NRHA. We put titles and suits and boots aside, and we looked at what the family actually wanted. And we want to cultivate those types of relationships in our community, because even when everything else goes wrong, if folks feel like I have someone or a group of folks that I can turn to, we know we're doing our jobs correct.
And Kimberly, let me just say that one of the things that I think also would be beneficial to us and to that extent, is I think a lot of times we tend to react when something has happened to a particular family or a community, but sometimes they have thoughts and ideas that will make the community better, will make our work better, will make our job better. And I think our listening ear, as you well know, could also benefit from getting a little bigger.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that kind of goes back to building those trusted relationships, that there are some things that folks will talk to me about simply because of the relationship I have with the person. It's not necessarily I'm talking to the community at large, but I am talking to the individual that's in that community. And if that partnership or that relationship is one that's trusted, they know that that information that's delivered goes back somewhere.
That's right.
And that's the catalyst for the change to begin. So it is important that we understand that the cycle doesn't look the same. We are not talking about monolithic situations of people. We are talking about unique individuals and unique circumstances, and we must respect them as such.
Okay.
Thank you.
And Kim,
Yes.
and I can't stress enough, for you all to take care of yourselves in that way
Absolutely.
as well. I mean, we're not, we do not minimize the secondary trauma that you and your staff experience during these tragedies, and that you carry them with you. So, please, build that, like you build the trust of the community, build that amongst yourselves, and take advantage of resources that are available to you all for self-care. Because, you guys can't go down. We need you.
Yeah. And I will take just a brief moment to say I really appreciate not only the board, but also the senior management here, the senior executives here, who have supported us as staff members to take that time to turn it off a bit. Because it is very overwhelming all the time. And it's almost shameful to say it affected me this way. We
we don't live in the community. But if it feels that way to us, we can only further respect how it's felt in the community. But I do want to say that we have really received a lot of support and guidance and even just kind of that proverbial head nod to say, yeah, you might want to come off the grid for just a little while, take care of yourself, and then come back.
Thank you very much. And
I have a comment. I just think, that young lady and the people that we did, even in Grandy, young lady had her daughter, and during that time we had a lot of shooting, just kids shooting in the air. No one got hurt, and the young lady went down to the council, and she was concerned because the shooting was right by her house, and her daughter was had some very minor. She had a lot of health issues, and she was 6 years old, and she ended up passing away. And the staff at NRHA at Rainy Village, they were very traumatized by Brenda's living all of them, and they took the torch and they made sure the young lady, and we all went to the funeral, and they made sure the family was very taken care of. Even I could say it's probably the mayor of Norfolk, because the child was a child. The funeral home he owned took care of the whole thing because of the relationship he had with the young lady that came out to the council. And I think that's how the love needs to be shown at all times. And Ron, I have to tell you, get a letter. We actually, that day of the funeral, we were there at the funeral at Metropolitan. We declared Brittany Unicorn Day, the young lady in our neighborhood the next year. So we'll put a banner up. Her mom was very pleased by NRHA doing the stuff they did for her in the time of her child at the age of 6 had passed. So that kudos to Kim's Thomas department and under management. They were really concerned and they really came out to support the young lady. Ms. Rose was there. I mean, people were there. I mean, staff came out too, and they were sobbing like they was their child as well. So we do need to figure out some things that we may need to keep counseling, that we need even for the staff, for bereavement, because some people in the agency really work hard, like they take the family like they're their own family. So I really think we need probably to invest in that too. So, yeah.
thank you.
Chairman, I want to ask one question. If we're about to close session, I have some great news that you need to know about because you'll be the center of attraction of this. To all the board members, Grandy Village is about to do something amazing. It's going to be a spectacular evening of love, hope with a purpose. 2022 on November the 21st, we're going back. We haven't did it in 7 years. We're having a Thanksgiving dinner, and we invited former people, the mayor, former Lieutenant Governor Jessica Fairfax, Mr. Wayne Lynch, who was the son of the young man that got killed in Virginia Beach. We've got special guests, a lot of officials of Norfolk, and this great board is the number one invited. So I have some invitations for every board member. And Mr. Jackson is NRHA is one of the main sponsors of this event. I want to thank you all for making the hope of our neighborhood, because we're getting back to where we were. So I want to invite you all to come and celebrate. We have a good catering company, and I want to make sure your Thanksgiving dinner can start off with me in our neighborhood, and it's going to be really nice. Full band and everything, jazz person outside. It's going to be really nice. A night of hope in our community. So we're inviting a whole lot of people. So invitation, I would love to see the commissioners come out. You always have when I want a commissioner, but I would like to see a lot of you all come out and sit with us in the community and let us know the community that we really are going to start in 2023 on the right note.
Excellent. Thank you so much for doing that. Appreciate it. Delphine, are we ready?
I'm assuming no new business, no comments on the update?
I haven't heard any.
Thank you. Resolution convening a closed meeting on November 10th, 2022. Be it resolved that the authority will convene in a closed meeting pursuant to the Virginia Freedom of Information Act as amended, the Act, to discuss discuss the following matters which are specifically exempted from public disclosure by the code section referred to below. Number one, personnel matters involving the assignment, appointment, promotion, demotion, performance, salaries, or resignation of employees of the authority, as authorized by Section 2.2-3711A1 of the Act. And number two, consultation with the authority's legal counsel regarding actual or probable litigation and legal matters requiring the provision of legal advice by counsel, as authorized by Section 2.2-3711A7 of the Act. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
A second, please.
Second.
Mr. Albert.
Aye.
Ms. Trzynski.
Aye.
Ms. Courier.
Aye.
Mr. Komorek.
Aye.
Mr. Gresham.
Aye.
Mr. White.
Aye.
Mr. Musacchio.
Aye.
Thank
All
you.
right, as normal, we usually take about 5 minutes, reminding you to please have no discussion whatsoever of business during this time. Well, like I say, in about 5 minutes. Gotta wait for the lady
My
to
teacher
say.
will.
She said we're ready.
Gotta wait for the lady to say we're on.
She said it.
Resolution certifying a closed meeting on November 10th, 2022. Whereas the authority has convened a closed meeting on this date pursuant to an affirmative recorded vote and in accordance with the provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act. And whereas Section 2.2-3712D of the 1950 Code of Virginia as amended requires a certification by this authority that such closed meeting was conducted in conformity with Virginia law. Now therefore, upon motion duly made and seconded, be it resolved that the authority hereby certifies that to the best of each commissioner's knowledge, number one, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements by Virginia law were heard, discussed, or considered in the closed meeting. And number two, only such public business matters as were identified in the motion convening the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered by the authority. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second? Ms. Puryear?
Aye.
Mr. Comaret?
Aye.
Mr. Gresham?
Aye.
Mr. White?
Aye.
Mr. Masaccio?
Aye. Okay, we are back in session, and are there any further comments? If not, I will call the November meeting to a close.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.